a job in a recession. I'm going to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes explaining to you the situation we're in and positive steps that you can take ultimately to find work when you graduate in the summer. Okay, first of all, those who don't know me, my name is Dan Hawes, and I'm the GRB Group co-founder, which I co-founded back in 1997 when I was a graduate, leaving Brighton University with a business studies degree. The GRB Group have now grown to become the go-to platform for high caliber university students, recent graduates, alumni and recruiters. We have over 40 staff. I'm coming to you from the Brighton office. Obviously no one else is here today, but I'm making sure all the computers are on so everyone can work from home. Usually this office is full of around 40 recruitment experts, helping over 1,800 clients, all sectors, companies you will have heard of like the Post Office, IBM, Unilever and Ocado, to name but a few, but also several fast-growing SMEs, companies that are growing. They need graduate talent, but maybe they just go under the radar for a lot of students and graduates. Our recruitment experts have successfully matched over 8,000 graduates with full-time graduate or executive level jobs. So the GRB Group, we consist of different divisions. So Graduate Recruitment Bureau is the main division. We provide searches for companies looking for high caliber students and graduates for full-time graduate roles. So these might be on graduate schemes, graduate programs, direct entry roles, that kind of thing. But any particular organization who are looking for graduates come to us and we are able to supply them with some brilliant graduates. GRN stands for Graduate Recruiters Network. This is a group of over 2,900 graduate recruiters. They are some of them are our clients. Others are associates involved with graduate recruitment. So we actually have quite a few university careers staff on there as well. We organise events and webinars and we discuss things around graduate recruitment. We also launched Graduate Mentor in August 2020, primarily to mitigate the effects of the pandemic on graduating students who are finding it really, really tough at the moment. So Graduate Mentor is a free service. It offers one-to-one mentoring using a video conference platform. So I'd encourage you to visit Graduate Mentor and find an inspiring business leader, someone who can give you a steer on your future career. Rising Stars, this is a list of 50 hand-picked final year students that our recruitment experts think are particularly outstanding for a number of reasons. And we promote Rising Stars to recruiters all over the UK. They're very interested in finding the cream of the crop. So we call them our Rising Stars. Also, we have a podcast called Student Diaries. So every month we interview 3 university students and find out what life is like at university right now. We also have many LinkedIn groups, not just for students, graduates, but also graduate recruiters. So we're able to reach various areas of graduate recruitment and build up a massive network on LinkedIn. And we also finally have 2 other divisions, Cortex and Metrica. They help graduates with experience. So I mentioned executive level positions before. So usually graduates with up to 5 years experience. Cortex focus on IT companies, and Metrica focus on data science and analytical graduates. So there's an overview of the GRB Group. Now let's start with some of the headlines you will have all been familiar with over the last 12 months. A lot here from the FT. So, we pay close attention to reliable sources of information. So organisations such as the FT, the Guardian, BBC and other research that we discover day to day. So it's been up and down, it's been a real roller coaster ride, but we look closely at how it affects graduates and how the economy is reacting to this pandemic. So here are just some of the headlines we've seen over the last 12 months. Now, the situation we're in. The pandemic, well, it's killed over 1 million people. So this has put the brakes on social mobility in this country and others, and also our economic growth. This has meant we've been forced into a global recession. The UK last year, the GDP actually dropped by 9.9%. That's the worst drop in many, many years, far worse than the previous recession in 2008. Predictions for a return to normal economic levels vary. There's a lot of talk at the moment about the bounce back being way better than we expect. But a lot of other economists are predicting a return to normal levels probably by Q4 2022. So it's worth paying attention to. A lot of economics and research surveys that are put out there to get an idea, particularly for certain industry types, when things will return to normal. So it's affected the jobs market massively. The jobs market is constantly changing no matter what, but the pandemic has really affected certain industries, and it's created a lot of redundancies. Unfortunately, 750,000 people have lost their jobs so far. Unemployment is currently at 5.1% as of last week. The government announced that, and it's expected to rise to 7.5% later this year. Probably when furlough ends, this may contribute to more people losing their job. Now, this has affected young people indirectly. 15% of 18 to 24-year-olds were on universal credit, which was about 529,400 people in September. So, a huge number of students and graduates have been affected by the downturn in the economy. A lot of this is through part-time work that would normally be created working in shops, bars, restaurants, hospitality, that kind of thing. All of those sectors have been hit massively. So last year, 500,000 graduates entered the jobs market. We can expect another 500,000 this summer to enter the jobs market. So that means the jobs market is very, very competitive. All those graduates from last summer who struggled to find work are still looking for work. So it's certainly going to be very challenging this summer to try and find work. What we've seen are large recruiters have deferred their start dates or postponed recruitment. Okay, so unlike previous recessions or downturns, which we've been through before, no organisation has stopped recruiting graduates. That's the good news. So big firms with graduate schemes, graduate programs, they're just shifting around their dates a little bit, and we're starting to see many recruiters come back for this season. So that's very encouraging. Now, those SMEs I mentioned before, they have other priorities than hiring or training graduates right now. Survival is top of their list, and some are struggling, particularly with cash flow issues at the moment. So smaller to medium enterprises are really struggling at the moment. The graduate labour market has suffered significant damage, particularly in certain areas I've mentioned before, but certainly the arts, which is probably one of the worst affected sector in the UK. Things have been shut down, theatres, cinemas, and so many aspects of this particular sector has really taken a massive hit. But also recreation, gyms, things like that, hospitality, leisure, tourism, airlines. These have all taken long-term hits and will take a long time to recover. What we've seen is graduates have become quite risk averse. They've steered away from these sectors I've mentioned there, and they've decided to choose safer options that offer more financial security. So we've seen an increase in graduates who want to be teachers or work in the public sector because they are deemed a safer, less risky industry to join. So it's interesting to see the way graduates have responded as well, and the kind of companies they're applying for. And also there will be some degrees that haven't prepared graduates for jobs that are available in this new economy. There's lots of new sectors that have emerged and have seen their growth accelerated over the last 12 months. That many graduates have done degrees that haven't prepared them for these new particular roles that require new and different skill sets. So there's going to be certainly an element of catching up from higher education. So there's just an overview of the situation we're in at the moment, which doesn't look great, but there are lots of positives that we've found over the last 12 months, which I'd like to share with you. And I want to focus on this a lot more to give you a lot more reassurance, positivity as you go into the jobs market. So these are some of the good headlines we've noticed in the last 12 months. So again, from the FT or BBC, this kind of thing, we've noticed some really good positive indicators. So hiring demand brings cheer for MBA graduates. You might not be an MBA graduate, but it certainly trickles down, and it shows employers' willingness to invest in graduates because they realize the skill sets that they bring. And certain sectors are noticing an uptick. So there's a mini housing boom in the construction sector, for instance. Certain areas of retail, so IKEA actually recorded a record year for store launches last year. And the government have intervened like never before to prop up the economy by injecting cash. So there's an announcement there, £150 billion worth of cash injected into the economy. The Chancellor will find out from the budget very, very soon what his new plans are. But so far, they have gone above and beyond what a lot of other governments have done so far, trying to support workers with their furlough scheme and also helping youngsters. So with the Kickstart program, that actually created 19,000 new jobs, which is great news. And most recently here, in fact, this was about 2 weeks ago, more than half of UK firms plan to hire new staff. I mean, that's really, really good news. So it feels like companies have turned a corner. Some sectors are still lagging. They will take time to come back, but there are opportunities out there for students and graduates. And one final piece of good news tucked in there was a piece of research that we saw that identified the 10 fastest growing industries in the UK. So it's well worth having a look, digging around, and you will find green shoots in the economy, and they will need graduates. They do need fresh skill sets, and they do need to inject new blood into their organizations. So there will be opportunities there. And there's just some of the headlines we've noticed. Now, here are some other highlights we've picked up from other surveys and research that we see. So in the week ending the 12th of February 2021, the volume of UK online job adverts stood at 81% of the level seen in the same week 12 months ago. Okay, so there's only a 19% dip, 19% dip in the number of job adverts based on this time last year. So that's actually quite good. It's not as bad as you'd think. So lots of companies are starting to advertise their jobs. So certainly look on websites such as Reed, where we got this bit of information, because there will be huge numbers of jobs starting to trickle through and appear on these job boards. Health, social care, IT, finance. These are 4 sectors that have been less affected than many other areas of the economy. Okay, so health for obvious reasons, and there's been huge investment in medicine and pharmaceuticals. Social care, obviously, again, we have an aging population in this country, so huge efforts being going into caring for the elderly, and all the suppliers to that industry as well are noticing increases in activity. IT, now this is a massive, very, very broad sector, but this has proved to be very resilient, especially with previous downturns in 2008, the 9/11 crisis, and the dot-com bubble. So in previous downturns, IT has consistently carried on, and it continues to be extremely resilient in recessions. And it's amazing how the internet has held up, it hasn't broken, and it's been a real lifesaver getting us through this pandemic. Finance, companies and individuals still invest in recessions, So certainly consider the financial sector, financial services, insurance, accounting. These areas are still ticking over quite nicely. So here's just 4 examples of sectors that are doing okay right now. Now, for employers who have been very cautious, sitting on the fence, they're starting to at least discuss recruiting. It's very, very hard for them to plan ahead. But what we're noticing, certainly from some of the discussions we're having with our clients, is that they're now ploughing on. They are going to recruit graduates in the summer, and at least some are starting to talk about it at the very, very least. Now, the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, so members of this professional organisation are senior HR or personnel people within big organisations. They recently did a survey, and about 56% of 2,000 firms plan to hire in the first 3 months of 2021. So, 56% of these firms have already started. And we're in the, the 3rd month of 2021. There's a long way to go, but that's very, very encouraging, because the chances are these will be big companies who've started to recruit. Now, other sectors that are indicating strong hiring intentions, I talked about healthcare, so that's just reiterating that. Finance and insurance came up again in another survey. Education, I talked about a lot of graduates going into teaching or tutoring or things like that, or maybe even teaching abroad. But also information and communication. So again, a massive industry sector. But this pandemic has increased demand for information and communication. So anything that has had to be digitized, for instance, has created demand for companies in that area. So certainly pay close attention to those particular companies. And believe it or not, last year had a record number of new companies registering with Companies House. So, maybe a lot of people who were made redundant took their redundancy money and thought, I'm going to start up my own business. Now, too early to tell whether they'll go the distance, but it's very encouraging that individuals have started new businesses. So they do create employment opportunities for graduates. So you can go on Companies House and you can have a look at some of these new companies that are registered, maybe near to where you live. And finally, some of the research from the REC. So this is the Recruitment and Employers Confederation, a massive organization for recruiters, so not just recruitment agencies, but other organizations. So we are members of the REC. We pay close attention to their survey. They said that 1.3 million active job adverts appeared in the first week of February. So 1.3 active job adverts. Now, not all of those will be graduate level, but they are a huge amount of jobs that have flooded the jobs market, and returning to levels last seen in late June 2020, when we did notice an increase in activity. So that's very encouraging. Certainly now we have the pandemic under control with the vaccine, and the government continuing to support with financial investment. It's giving the confidence to recruiters to start looking again, and that is really, really key. So there's an overview of just some of the surveys and research that we've noticed in the last, I'd say 6 months or so, but there's lots more information out there. Definitely encourage you to go and see what's out there, because there are some very positive signs. So if you look at the graduate recruitment industry, this is actually taken from the ISE, which stands for the Institute of Student Employers. Now they have about 700 members. A lot of them are big recruiters, and this just shows you since 2000 the level of activity in hiring trends. So in 2000, you can see that they hired 15% more graduates than the year before. Now, if you look at the last recession, so 2008, 2009, the big dip by 25%. So members of the ISE recruited 25% less graduates in the recession of 2008, 2009. The following year, they were still down by about 7%. So you can see the trend here. So it's taken 2 years for them to get back before they started recruiting again in 2010 and 11. So will we see that again this year? If you look at the final bar there at the end, that is for the last recruiting season. So they recruited, I think it was 12% less graduates. So not as bad as the previous recession, amazingly, given how the GDP has gone down massively by 9.9%. So that's encouraging. It's not as bad as the last recession. And there's so much talk about the bounce back that who knows how 2021 will be, whether we'll be back quicker than we think, instead of another year of fewer graduate opportunities. But that just gives you a rare insight, actually. You don't often get to see this kind of information about how the trends have gone since 2000 with some very, very big recruiters. And they kind of dictate how the graduate recruitment industry responds to the economy. So you can see 2020, we had a dip. Will there be another dip this year? Maybe not as bad, we don't know. But certainly early indications are that the bounce back is going to be pretty good. Now, again, this survey, I mean, this is like a 30-page document that comes out every year. This shows you by sector, okay, the changes in graduate recruitment. So you can see the built environment, energy, engineering, and industry were down. They're in the negative. So they were recruiting less graduates, whereas the others were all recruiting more. So I've talked about digital and IT, finance and professional services, retail and FMCG. So, if you look on the high street, a lot of shops are struggling, particularly the big chain stores. But if you look at e-commerce, that's doing a lot better. So obviously Amazon, but there are lots and lots of other companies trading online that are doing very, very well. Also, the charity and the public sector increased their graduate recruitment massively in the last 12 months. And across the board, a 3% increase across all sectors of graduate recruiters. So, that shows you by sector how very, very different it is, So some sectors are really struggling. They're going to take time to come back. Other sectors have seen their growth accelerated. Other sectors have seen no change, whereas others are hoping to bounce back. So it's a real mixed picture. But generally, across the board, things are looking positive for the next 12 months. So I talked about the ISE research, but also the Association of Graduate Careers Advisory Services, which Aston University are members of as well. And their research showed that only 15% of members said they'll be recruiting less graduates. So that's actually not bad. We're seeing 85% are going to be recruiting if you turn it around. So that's very, very encouraging. That's fairly recent research that we saw. So 85% of ISE members expect to hire the same or more graduates in 2021. So that's very encouraging. Now, internships, apprenticeships, and placements have been really hit, a lot worse than graduate jobs. So unfortunately, for those students who are hoping to do a placement or an internship in the summer, those opportunities have really been affected badly. We don't know when those will return. But for graduates entering the job market this summer, very, very encouraging. Now, you're wondering why, up till now, graduate recruiters have been postponing their recruitment, sitting on the fence. Well, 39%, according to the ISE again, cited uncertainty. So you have to understand from a business's point of view where their priorities lie. I talked about SMEs, survival is top of their priority list, whereas other organizations, actually recruiting new talent is very much at the top of their priority list as well. But for a lot of organizations, this uncertainty and confidence in the future has been a real stumbling block as regards their planning. Now, as we move forward, as I said, with the more and more people being vaccinated and the economy hopefully being opened on June the 21st, this uncertainty will go away. And that will make recruiters far more confident investing in the future, which is what graduate recruitment is all about. So 31% of employers did delay their start dates for their new hires. That was in 2020. So, you know, not the majority, but quite a few employers did actually delay their start dates. So this might happen again. The whole recruitment cycle has been changed. Whether we see any more employers delaying beyond June, we'll have to wait and see. I've talked about SMEs being really badly hit. So, you know, this has been a real struggle for some organizations trying to get off the ground. Certainly companies in the built environment, finance and professional services, energy, engineering and industry sectors. So smaller firms, so those with up to 250 employees are really struggling. Many will have had to make redundancies. They have cash flow issues. Brexit hasn't helped some of them, created a lot more red tape. So SMEs are really, really struggling in certain areas at the moment. Now, in terms of companies' activity on campus, I mean, because a lot of you will be studying at home, they weren't able to go on campus. So 69% of recruiters cancelled visits to universities last year. 72% cancelled attendance at career fairs. Now, I know they have been carrying on in a virtual way, and lots of employers have been going along to these, and they've been a great success. We don't know how it's going to be this autumn, whether career fairs will be back, but it has really affected the ability for employers to come onto campus and meet you. So Graduate Recruitment Bureau would normally do about 40 events at universities, so we weren't able to do any of them. We've been doing webinars like this, and it's been brilliant, but it has affected companies being able to come on campus, and it has made them it's made them less visible to students and graduates, when normally you could go and meet them face to face, find out about them, and even speak to graduates doing the jobs there. So we hope, as do many employers, to be back on campus as soon as it is safe to do so. So many companies have had to move a lot of their application processes online. We're dealing with recruiters all the time, and they're organising interviews online, assessment centres, even onboarding and even training, so that graduates can join the companies and actually be working from home from day one. And technology really has saved the day there. So lots and lots of companies have digitized their recruitment processes, and from clients that we've spoken to, many of them will probably carry on. It's been a very successful experiment for a lot of organizations to do a lot of their processes virtually, and technology has made things very, very smooth for them. So we actually anticipate lots of recruiters carrying on doing this in a remote way. And we all know that lots of companies can't open their offices, and lots of people have had to work at home. So, you know, this is going to change the workplace for a lot of graduates. So, you know, you'll be starting a company, you may have to deal with your colleagues or your line manager using Zoom or MS Teams, that kind of thing, and maybe only going to the office a few times a month. It does depend on the job. But generally, it does appear that a lot of companies are going to continue asking their staff to work from home. So, you know, that's going to be a big change for a lot of graduates. I mean, lots of students are used to working at home, and to actually do a full-time job from home is going to be interesting, and it does require new skill sets. So we've run webinars on how to do home working and virtual interviewing and dealing with this new change. So graduates may be expected to work from home a lot more in the future. So those are some of the things that are going on in the economy, in the graduate recruitment industry itself, and a lot of those things are out of your control. What I'd like to finish off with are positive steps you can take when you graduate from Aston University and transition to the workplace. So the first thing is, don't lose sight of your career goals, okay? There may be some sectors that aren't recruiting right now that you had set your hopes on entering when you graduated. Do not give hope. Do not lose sight of those career goals. It just might take longer to get there. You might need to take a few other jobs before you actually land that dream role. So, you know, we've spoken to a lot of students and graduates. It can be very disheartening that you can't start the job that you wanted to begin with and use your degree. But we're in a recession. So, you know, don't take the first job you're offered necessarily, but do take a long-term view that you may not get that dream job straight away. You may need to take a zigzag route to get there. And employers will like that, actually. They will like the fact that you've got skills in other areas. So, you know, don't forget that you're constantly looking about building your skill set. So do not lose sight of your career goals. That's very, very important. So I've talked about certain areas that you aren't recruiting at the moment. So, you know, it'd be wise to avoid sectors like aviation, tourism, leisure, hospitality. Focus on the sectors that are seeing a surge in activity. They are the ones that are going to be hiring. So we've talked about e-commerce or online retail, any in-home service or delivery service, healthcare we've talked about a lot, fintech. So this is companies in the IT sector that supply the financial service industry. A lot of these are companies you may not have heard of, but they are looking for students and graduates, as are cybersecurity firms. So with this huge move online, organizations are very nervous about cybersecurity right now. So they're investing a lot of money in this area. So, you know, they're going to need some smart graduates to help them achieve their goals. Analytics is another big sector. So anything requiring a numeric degree where you're studying trends, that kind of thing, particularly with retail, is a big area for graduates right now. And also lots of other technical consultancies are out there. I'm sure your career service have contacts with the organizations that I'm mentioning here that will be interested in hiring you. So avoid those sectors that are really suffering. Focus on sectors that are booming, that are seeing an acceleration in their activity. Build your CV with skills that employers will value. So I'm sure you're all doing that. You're focusing on getting a good degree, obviously, but along the way, look for relevant work experience that's going to help you get the job that you want. Look for opportunities to do extracurricular activities, things that are going to give you exposure to new skills, and things that make you more employable in the eyes of companies who are looking to take you on. So always be thinking about how you can build your CV with really useful, employable skills. I'm sure your career service, again, will be able to explain the kind of skills that employers are looking for right now. Use your time productively. So, you know, a lot of people are sitting at home with a lot of time on their hands. They can't go out, they can't see friends or family. So try and use that to your advantage. Take small steps and slowly you'll gather momentum. So we're encouraging a lot of students to practice virtual interviews, for instance. So don't leave it till the last minute before you actually have a virtual interview. I'm sure many of you are starting to have those right now, but it pays to do mock virtual interviews just to give you the confidence to perform at your best, because interviews at the best of time are daunting, but certainly when you're doing it from home, when there can be so many distractions or technical issues, if you can at least be confident dealing with virtual interviews, that's certainly a really good use of your time. And also start looking at as many opportunities to get yourself out there. So use your career services, use your local recruitment agencies, use specialists like GRB, also use LinkedIn. Lots of recruiters post jobs on there, job boards like Reed, and also don't ignore sending speculative applications. So this is where, if you zone in on maybe 2 or 3 employers you'd really like to work for and you don't see any jobs advertised on the website, don't think that they're not looking. The chances are they may have advertised it internally, or they just haven't got round to it, or they're just in the process of putting together job specifications. Don't move on to the next company. Try and find out who the recruiting manager is, or maybe if it's a small firm, maybe the owner or co-founder or managing director, that kind of thing. Usually they're on LinkedIn, and send a speculative application. So, have a look at this organisation and have a think about what you can offer. Send your CV with a letter via email or through LinkedIn. Get through to the decision maker, and we've seen it before. Graduates have actually found work by sending speculative applications. Straight away, you won't have as much competition because a lot of graduates may not be looking in these areas, and it will help you stand out. If you can really sell your skill set, you may get the attention of a recruiter, and they may want to hire you. So do not ignore companies who may not have jobs advertised. Huge numbers of jobs don't go advertised. So that's a really good bit of advice there. Now, when it does come to interview, one of the big questions we're seeing is, what did you do in the lockdown? So, think about the things you've been doing to move forward, to demonstrate that you're resilient, that you can deal with situations like this. So it could be online learning. You may have done a course, and there are lots of courses. LinkedIn Learning do them. Harvard University, Open Universities. These are free courses in lots of different things to add to your CV. So they're a brilliant opportunity to show employers what you've been doing in the lockdown to keep moving forward. You may have been involved in volunteering, maybe as part of the pandemic. You've been helping your local people, or you may have actually been doing contract or part-time work, maybe remotely, or things like that. So any evidence to show you haven't just been there, dwelling on the negative, but you've been moving forward, thinking about ways of making yourself more employable. That will be a really good answer, because this question does come up a lot in interview. Plus, you do have other options. You don't have to go straight into the workplace. You could go abroad. There are other countries like Australia, for instance, that seem to be carrying on. There aren't so many restrictions, and there are opportunities abroad. Maybe in Europe there might be more paperwork now because of Brexit. That might make it harder, but do think beyond this country, because there may be opportunities to go abroad. You may also want to start your own business. You may have had a side hustle at university. You may think now is a good opportunity to invest more time and money into starting your own business. We see a lot of entrepreneurs start businesses in recessions, that they can be a very, very good opportunity to start. Or for a lot of graduates, they're thinking, I'm going to ride this out. I'm going to stay at university and do a postgraduate course. Now, of course, that does come with a cost. If you can afford it, by all means, look around and see what other courses you could do at Aston University, for instance, and stay at university. And then in a year's time, you can enter the jobs market. So, you do have other options rather than going straight into the workplace. And finally, one thing we noticed in all these previous downturns was that these big recruiters very often have a shortfall. Okay, so big organizations with graduate schemes or programs will set out hiring, let's say, 50 graduates. So they'll go to university career fairs, they'll run interviews, they'll have assessment centers, they'll make offers. Sometimes these offers aren't taken up because graduates may take more than one offer, okay? And it comes to September, when all these graduates are going to start, and maybe 5 people don't show up and they don't accept those contracts. This means those recruiters cannot go back to universities. They can't go back to career fairs. They have to re-advertise these roles, and this is called a shortfall. And very often they'll come to agencies like Graduate Recruitment Bureau to fill those shortfalls. And there are huge numbers of jobs that go under the radar for students and graduates for this precise reason. So if there is a big company you like the look of in the autumn, don't assume that the jobs won't be available. Go back to those companies because they may have a shortfall. It only takes one opportunity, and you can jump onto a graduate scheme kind of through the back door, if you like. So certainly think about revisiting those big firms, because some of them may have trouble getting those graduates onto their schemes. So there's 8 positive steps you can take as you graduate and enter the jobs market in the summer. So I hope that's helped, giving you some reassurance that things are picking up, some guidance and advice to give you some positive steps to take. And some of these are easy to do. They're not massive steps. They're small steps to help you move forward and put you in a very, very strong position to start your career. Now, finally, I did mention Graduate Mentor. I'm going to mention it again because we are getting a huge number of mentors joining the platform. So we have very senior business people from organizations like Facebook, MasterCard, the British Army, the Ordnance Survey, the University of Nottingham. All of these people have volunteered to be mentors on Graduate Mentor. So visit the website. You can choose a mentor by industry sector. You can book an appointment via Zoom or MS Teams or even a phone call, and you can have an hour's session with a business leader or an industry expert, someone like that. And these are really senior people who are very, very keen. They feel a moral duty to young people right now to help mitigate the effects of the pandemic. So this is a new service we launched in August 2020, and it's free to use, and I strongly encourage you to check it out. I hope that's helped. If you do have any questions,